Welcome to another episode of the Dragon's Den podcast. Today we have with us Tucker Royer for our second debrief. On our last episode of the debrief, I said that I would keep an ear out for any grabs that were made in our area, and I'd invite them to come in and talk about their experiences so that we can learn. I figured it would be many months before we'd have another one, but it didn't take long. While Tucker was visiting his volunteer department, the tones dropped, preparation met opportunity, and he had a chance to make a difference. We appreciate firefighter Royer coming in to talk about his rescue. It's a very short episode, but we hope you enjoy it. Thanks for listening.
Ready to roll?
Ready when you are.
Ready as we'll ever be. So, all right. Welcome back to another episode of the Dragon's Den podcast. I believe this is number 9, if I'm not mistaken. We'll figure it out. But what we have today is going to be a much shorter version than what we normally do. Today is another episode of the debrief. I said in my last episode of the debrief that if we don't make rescues very often, but if we have guys in our area that make a rescue, that I would bring those guys in to talk about that rescue with the intention of trying to learn from them and gather what we can. So lo and behold, I don't think that we had I was like, we're probably not going to do these for another 6 months. But lo and behold, we had one almost immediately after our last one. I said our area. We're going to talk about that in a second. So got myself, Chris Scott. We got Skippy Grisham back there on the boards again, helping us out with audio. And today we have on Tucker Royer. So Royer. My apologies, Tucker Royer. Tucker works with us in Lafayette, but he also works part-time for the Sunset Fire Department, which is a department that is reasonably close to Lafayette, a little bit just north of here. Tucker called me while I was doing my not my elliptical. I was on my little bicycle, and I get a call from Tucker, and I was like, "What in the hell does Tucker want? He doesn't ever call me." And he said, "Hey, Chris, I got a grab." I'm like, "Are you messing with me?" He's like, "No, man, I got a grab. I pulled somebody out of a fire," and I did. No way. And then you went into your process. You started talking about it, and I said, "Well, let's talk about it." But before we do, last episode we talked about sponsorships and we talked about Guidros, but this time I wanted to talk very quickly about this book right here. It is the Book of Search. It's put on by Firehouse Vigilance. It is if you want to know more about search, a better way to search than Corley Moore and all the guys that came in together to produce this book. Basically, it's a bunch of articles from some of the top level guys in the fire service, absolute tip of the spear when it comes to the topics of search. And he beautifully bound these things together and said, here, use this as your, hold tight. He's good. Use this as a guideline for how we should be searching buildings and things that are related to tick and all those things. Corley and anybody that is involved with making this book doesn't make a single dollar. They make no money whatsoever. Every piece of profit that goes towards this book goes to the Firefighter Rescue Survey, and you can look those guys up. But they're doing great things by collecting data on rescues, and then they collect that data and they spit it back out to tell us how we're doing our rescues. Are they dirty grabs? What are the smoke conditions? How long did it take to get them out? Did they survive? And they give that back to the fire service so that we can search better, which I've talked to you literally 2 days ago. I said, hey, let's get yours uploaded into the Firefighter Rescue Survey so that once again, we can produce more data to produce better searches, to produce better outcomes for our victims. So I wanted to mention the Book of Search. I have not dug into it yet, but I absolutely will be digging into it reasonably soon. So with all that out of the way, Tucker, welcome. And go ahead with your what happened, your thought process, and your lessons learned.
So it all began, I was just printing some papers in Sunset. I was off duty. Just needed a printer.
Right.
Call comes in, structure fire. Grab my gear. I jump on the truck. We pull up on scene. I see light smoke coming out the house. Chief had already made his arrival in his unit. He gave a size up. I didn't catch the size up. Didn't hear it.
Right.
So I'm just taking what I see. And as I step foot out the truck, they said we have a victim inside over the radio. And I caught that. And I looked at the driver, I looked at the chief, I said, I'm packing up and I'm going in.
Right.
I said, y'all meet me with a hose line. Like, just come protect me once I get in, once y'all packed up, whatever. So I went to the front door, and once I got to the front door, it was unlocked. So I opened it. Well, it was hot.
Mm-hmm. You
Stupid hot.
close the door behind you?
I didn't go all the way in.
No,
Like,
but I mean, so you just opened it and
I
did
opened
whoop,
it.
no,
I peeked in. Like, I crawled in just like half my body, and I was like, oh my God, it's hot.
yeah,
And I turned back around. I closed the door back.
sure.
I was like, I got to find a different way. There got to be a better way for me to get in that I won't burn myself.
Yeah.
I started knocking on windows. I started on the first room on the left side, which is the B side of the house. I started knocking on windows. Couldn't hear nothing. They'd said over the radio that she was still moaning.
Mm-hmm.
Thought that I would have heard some type of slight noise. Nothing.
Because
So-
they correct me if I'm wrong, but they told y'all they were making contact. 911 was making contact, and then they told y'all, hey, we lost contact with
Yeah,
her,
they
right?
were on the phone with her
Sure.
while they were getting a call or whatever,
Right.
and
But
they,
she was just moaning. at
just
some point.
moaning
Right.
at that point. So I figured I would be able to hear her moan. I'll dive through the window,
Yeah.
textbook routine
Yeah.
search. Nah, it didn't happen like that. I was thinking of different ways, so I backed up and I was like, front door's all I got. Be a man.
Elevated windows, right?
Yes, elevated windows,
Right.
very
So-
high.
So it would have been
Probably-
difficult to get in and out because you're only two guys on scene at this point, right?
Yes.
Two guys that have the ability to pack up and go.
Yes.
Right.
So high windows. So I resorted back to front door.
Yeah.
Go back to front door. Be a man. It's only gonna be hot for a little while,
Suck it up, right?
pretty much. So I get in the front door and I started a left hand search because there was fire on my right side. So
Okay.
obviously I don't want to go towards the fire.
Yeah.
I say, let's go left. I hit my first room on the left and I found the door. I opened it. The door was closed. So I open it, I get in. It's two walls. And
You can feel both sides, so it
I
feels like
can
a hallway.
Feel, yeah, it feels like a hallway, but it's going into a
Into
room.
a room.
So I get to another door. I had closed the door behind me. I start searching that hallway type, and I feel another door. And as I felt with my left hand on that door, I felt with my right hand, and I felt a round squishy object.
Mhm.
Didn't know what it was. Almost passed it up. Was going into the next doorway, and something just made me feel down her leg, and it was her foot. And I'm like, I found the victim, and I hollered it to the guys if they were even around.
When you
didn't
closed
have-
the door, they probably weren't. But you
Exactly.
did the normal, yeah.
I hollered, I got a victim. I grabbed both her ankles. I turned around, started dragging. I opened the door back up, and I saw a lot of light. I saw daylight for days.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like that before because it was very, very dark. Whenever I first got in, there was no visibility. So I just kept backing up, scooting, tripod method,
Yeah.
dirty drag. I got her to the doorway, and they took over. There
Other
was
people
somebody-
other people had met you, Kankton's
Yeah.
police chief, fire,
Fire
chief
chief
and wife, and they were all helping
PD
out.
and all them. Somebody said, we got it.
Yeah.
And I turned back around and went back in.
When you went in the second time, at the time that you were going in the second time, you had the other fireman. Was he hit? The line was stretched. The line was charged. Do you really remember what was going on at that point?
So line was stretched. He was still packing up. The chief grabbed the line and just stretched it to the door.
Okay.
So it was ready for him whenever he was coming up.
So roughly in the time that you went in for the second attempt at the search, the line was charged, and he was probably going to be. So when you were in the room was probably when they started getting water on the fire,
Yes, that's
which
about the time.
probably led to the clearing up of conditions. And
Yeah.
once you open the door, you were able to see a little bit of daylight, and you make it out. I asked you what kind of drag you made. And I taught you some in the academy, and it was, you said nope, we didn't do none of those. You grabbed the wrist to wrist, hand to hand, ankle to ankle, and you were pulling two hands, which is fine. Did it work?
Yeah.
Yeah,
it
you did a
worked.
great job. Yeah,
It was most definitely not something that I thought I could have done, being I am 112 pounds.
Yeah.
This woman was
Big
bigger
guy.
than me.
yeah.
You know, I never thought it would be me doing this, but in the time, I never felt her. I grabbed and just took off. And
Adrenaline, time to go.
most definitely.
One of the things that you had said that stuck with me, and was that you had built this. I remember you worked with us on Saturday, right?
Yeah.
In Lafayette, and you told us this on Saturday, but the Saturday before the rescue, you said on Friday that you had worked with that other fireman, and y'all had. You remember you said like, "Hey, we don't ever get any house fires in Sunset," but you started to develop a plan. Tell us
Most
that
definitely.
conversation.
So we were just sitting down at the station talking, and it came up. I don't even know how the topic started. We got on the topic of house fires, and I said, look, if we get a house fire in Sunset, I said it's not likely, but if we do and we working together,
Right.
I've got a little bit of search background
Mhm.
with Captain Chris Scott. I said, I want you to know you can trust me, for one. I will go in without a hose line. You just meet me with a hose line in the building. And he's like, okay. He said, I don't know nothing about, like, I'm not big on search. I don't know nothing about it. I work in Port Barry, whatever. I'm like, okay, cool. I said, but look, I want you to, like, be there for me, like, back me up while I'm going in.
Mhm.
And he's like, okay. Well, everything played out to that T.
Lo and behold, 4 days later,
4 days later.
that exact scenario.
Exact
It's y'all two
scenario.
on the truck,
Yep.
confirmed trapped, and somebody has to search.
And it was to the T.
And you didn't
of
have
what
to
we
sit
thought.
and talk to him like,
Nope.
hey, look, what do you know? Okay, I know a little. Like,
Yeah.
none of that had happened because you just had that conversation
And
4
it
days
just-
earlier.
It just came out. I told them, hey, I'm going in. And
Yeah.
they knew where I was going.
Right.
The only thing I wish I would have done different was arms, for sure. I
Right.
didn't grab nothing.
Mhm.
I just grabbed my pack and went. Because our packs aren't in the truck. On that truck that we were on, the packs are in the compartment. So I
Mhm.
wasn't packed up.
Sure.
So as I'm walking to the door, I'm throwing my pack on, clipping in.
Sure.
So most definitely I should have grabbed arms, because if I would have had to bail out the window, I had no way to.
Breaking it would have been tough. Yeah.
Yes.
And then putting it up again, putting that Halligan below the window sill to be able to step up and get out would have also been difficult if you didn't have
In or
it
out
had-
my
yeah, an iron.
entrance, exit, it would have been very tough for me. So now that I'm looking back at things, we talked about it, but I still didn't do my plan like I thought I had it in my head, you know.
Sure. Yeah,
Adrenaline
adrenaline will
hit
get
me.
you. Tunnel vision.
Most
Mike
definitely.
Tyson, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face. And that's very similar to the fire service. We
Yes.
can tabletop a lot of different things, talk about a lot of different things, read a lot of different articles and go, yeah, this is going to be, but when everything's on fire and you got a confirmed victim, it tunnel vision, everything starts to shrink down on you a little bit. It's
Most
tough. It's
definitely.
tough to fight that feeling.
Yeah.
Does the department that you have had thermals or they did not have thermals?
We do have thermals,
Yeah.
but it's not like what we have in Lafayette where you could clip on. It's
Yeah.
a bigger,
Big chunkier
yeah,
thing.
it's
You-
an older model.
Yeah, you still have the ability to get those things rigged up onto your gear, but
Yeah.
but if it's not ready to go, then it might be a little more difficult to grab and go. But
Yeah.
in hindsight, probably would have grabbed it if you were thinking about it.
Yeah, most definitely. That or a flashlight would have helped me too.
Didn't have a flashlight.
Didn't have a flashlight, didn't have a radio, didn't have irons, didn't have.
Yeah,
I didn't
that
have.
was another thing. The radio too.
I had
Yeah.
my gear and an air pack. That's all I had.
In slight fairness to you, right? You were just there grabbing some paperwork. It's not
Yeah.
like you were on shift, ready. Like, hey, this is my day. This is where I'm going to be sitting. I'm supposed to be responding out. So it
Yeah.
was a little bit like last minute. Let's get it and go.
Most
And
definitely.
obviously it was successful. But I like that you guys had built somewhat of a plan previously. You're thinking about it instead of
Yeah.
just kind of not thinking about it. You were thinking about it. You had developed a plan. You knew, hey, searching away from the hose line is going to be a possibility. And the other thing that a lot of people get confused is I'm an advocate for searching without a hose line. And what a lot of people think that means is, oh, you go into the building and the hose line is left on the truck. That is absolutely not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the hose line is an absolute priority. But I'm talking about a search that is independent from the hose line. Suppression has to happen. That is
Yeah.
at the top. Justin McWilliams talked about it on Corley's last podcast, where he said, if you're coming to get my daughters, and he runs the search culture page, huge advocate for search. That's what he does in his job on the truck that he's on. He says, if you're coming to get my daughters, I want you to pull a hand line 99.9% of the time. 99% of the time, I want you to pull a line. And that's a guy saying, that he's a very pro search without a hose line guy. His point is, the only time that's not going to happen is if you get somebody on the outside that's pointing at the window saying, hey, this is where my kids are. That might be the only time where you just hop in that window without a hose line. Every other
Yes.
time, you pull a hose line.
Most definitely.
But to try to search with a hose line in your hand is not an effective strategy. And you had that mentally in your plan. Hey,
Yes.
you go help me by cooling this environment for us and the victim. I am going away from the fire to try to grab him. And lo and behold,
It worked.
what happened?
It worked.
You found the victim, you pulled him out. And she makes it. She survived from unconscious to conscious.
As far as I know, right now she's living, and
Yeah. Yeah.
she's doing okay.
Yeah.
And something I'd like to add about this situation too. This department is a small department. They got about
Tiny.
3,000 people in the town, rural. They have part-time guys during the day because they don't have enough volunteers during business hours. So don't think that something like this couldn't happen, because of how small your department may be or where you're at. Fires happen everywhere. And if these guys hadn't taken those steps to start, getting mentally prepared and training,
Could have been a different outcome.
Yeah.
Never be complacent.
Never complete.
I've
That's one of
learned
the things that Kojo had said with the Station 8 rescue. That one of his takeaways was, he goes, "Man, I just come off the line. I had less than a year on the line, and you kind of think." He said, "Don't think it won't happen to you."
Yeah.
I could go the rest of my career never having the opportunity to make a grab, and that it could be very well my reality. But you could also be day one on the line, and then have to go and make the same grab that you just made. You
Or
just
you
can't.
could
How long
be
you have
there
on
just using the
with
prep.
Lafayette?
It's gonna be 2 years in March that
Yeah.
I've got hired.
Brand new.
Yeah.
Now, once again, you didn't make it with Lafayette, you made it, but the point is, reasonably new guy,
New training, most definitely.
and opportunity. The opportunity was there, and you took advantage
Yes,
of it.
most definitely. I've learned, it taught me a lot right there. Complacent wise is the biggest thing. Don't
Yeah.
get complacent. Don't think it's never gonna be you, because it will be.
Chief Stone, one of the Stone brothers, says all the time, it's every day that you don't have a rescue is one day that you're closer to having a rescue. So it's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. If you didn't have it
Yeah.
today, then it's coming. It's coming. So prepare for it, because it is coming.
Most definitely.
Even if it doesn't, that's not the point. You have to
Yeah.
prepare every day like it's your opportunity to pull somebody out of a fire, and that is, in my opinion, what we are here for.
Yep.
We're
Exactly.
firefighters, but that's secondary to the mission of what we're actually here for, which is to rescue life.
Yes, sir.
So,
Yes, sir.
all right, pretty short episode. Anything you want to add? Finish it up with. I'm giving you the floor for a second before we close it out.
I think that's it. Other than thank you, and
You're welcome, man. That's what we're here for. You know that when I came into the academy, the goal was to try to produce better search techniques, and that's it. That's the be all end all of everything. Trying to produce better searches to produce better outcomes. So I truly love doing it. It's not even a hindrance. I enjoy doing this thing. So all right.
job well done to you.
Now, just part of, look, I told you when you said you made the grab, you said thank you. I said, man, I didn't do nothing. I'm in here cycling in my living room. You had to go in with the gear and go
Yeah.
grab it. It's you. It ain't me.
But
Yeah.
you brought me to where I'm at to do that.
Yeah, I will not accept that compliment, but thank you. All right, that was a quick hitter episode on grabs. If you once again, we're going to continue to try to if you grab somebody, call me and let me know, and we'll try to get you on for lessons learned.
And we'll travel to you too.
Yeah. Well, don't
Within reason,
Yeah,
within reason.
Be careful now. I'm getting a call from Oregon. Hey, you said you'd come out to us.
If you pay for the plane ticket, we'll come.
Maybe so. That might be a
Vacation.
possibility. So yeah, we'll continue to do this as we find more people at rescue that want to come on and discuss the pros, cons, and the realities of it. We'll keep having them. So thank you for coming on. I appreciate you,
Thank
Tucker.
y'all for having me.
All right. Thank y'all for watching another episode of Dragons Den Podcast. Appreciate y'all.
Thank you.